If you haven't watched part 1, go watch it first. Link in the description. Because what I'm about to tell you only makes sense if you know how it started. For those who are caught up, I found my husband's secret phone on a Tuesday afternoon. 14 months of messages. A woman named Claire. And my husband David coming home that evening not knowing that I knew everything. This is part 2. And it does not end the way you think. Hey everyone, welcome back to Verdict Stories. New story every single day. Hit subscribe so you never miss one. Let's finish this. When David came home that Tuesday evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table. Oliver was at my feet. My sister had offered to stay. I asked her to leave. I needed to do this alone. David came through the door the way he always did. Keys on the hook, bag on the chair, a casual hey in my direction. He was halfway to the kitchen when he stopped. He stopped because of the way I was sitting. I think. Or maybe he saw something in my face. 9 years means you can read each other without words sometimes. He said, "What's wrong?" I put the phone on the table between us. He looked at it for a long time. Long enough that I knew with complete certainty that the hiding place had been deliberate and that he had thought about what would happen if I found it. He sat down. He didn't say, "That's not mine." He didn't say, "Where did you get that?" He sat down and he looked at the table and he said, "How long have you known?" I said, "Since this afternoon." He said, "Rachel." I said, "Don't." He stopped. I had prepared things to say. I had spent 2 hours on the 4 and 40 minutes with my sister going over what I wanted to say, and when the moment came, none of it felt right. So I said the only thing that actually felt true. I said, "I want you to tell me who she is." He told me. Her name was Claire. I already knew that. She was a colleague from a conference he attended 18 months ago. They had stayed in touch. It had become something else. He said, "It wasn't supposed to go this far." I said, 14 months is not an accident. 14 months is a choice. Made over and over again. He didn't argue with that. I asked him if it was over. He said yes. He said it had ended 6 weeks ago. She had ended it, he said, because she felt too guilty. I sat with that information for a moment. The woman he had been seeing for 14 months had more guilt than he did. That was interesting. I said, "Were you going to tell me?" Long pause. He said, "I didn't know how." I said, "That's not an answer." He said, "No. I wasn't going to tell you. At least it was honest." I asked him to sleep in the guest room that night. He did, without arguing. I lay in our bed, my bed, and I stared at the ceiling and I thought about 9 years, the 4-hour drives to see my father. The 6 weeks of dinners. The way he made me laugh in the first 10 minutes. All of that was real. I know it was real. That's the part that made it so complicated. In the morning I called the therapist, not couples therapy, individual therapy, for me. I had my first appointment 3 days later. My therapist's name is Karen and she is the reason I am still standing. David and I spent 6 weeks in a strange suspended state. He was in the guest room. We were polite to each other in the way of people navigating something enormous. He suggested couples therapy. I said I wasn't ready. He said he would wait. At the 6-week mark I sat down with him and I said, "I need to tell you what I've decided." He waited. I said, "I'm not ready to end this marriage. But I'm not ready to save it either. I need 6 months. You stay in the guest room. You go to individual therapy not because I'm requiring it but because I'm telling you clearly that a person who can do what you did needs to understand why they did it. And in 6 months we talk again." He said, 6 months. I said, 6 months. He said, "Okay." That was 8 months ago. We are still married. David has been in therapy for 7 months. The guest room is no longer his room. He moved back into our bedroom 3 months ago, when I felt ready. We are in couples therapy now, once a week. It is not comfortable. Some sessions I drive home in silence because I don't have words yet. Some sessions something shifts and I feel, briefly, Like we are two people working on something rather than two people waiting to see if it collapses. Oliver still sleeps at the foot of the bed. That part hasn't changed. I posted on Reddit because of one specific question. When I found the phone, I copied every message before I confronted David, every single one. I have them saved. I haven't told David I have them. My therapist knows. My sister knows. No one else does. My question, am I wrong to keep them? Not to use against him, I have no plans to. But as evidence, I suppose. Proof that I didn't imagine this. Proof for myself. Reddit was thoughtful about this one. The top comment, with over 51,000 upvotes, said, "You found something devastating and your first instinct was to document it before he could deny it. That's not manipulative. That's survival. Keep them as long as you need to." 10. Another comment said, "The fact that you gave him 6 months instead of 6 minutes says everything about who you are. You chose to understand before you decided. That takes more strength than most people have." And one comment that I read 3 times, "You said you trusted him like the ground you just walk. You don't think about it. The ground shifted. You didn't fall. You sat with it, you thought it through, and then you decided." That's not weakness. That's extraordinary. I don't feel extraordinary. Most days I feel like someone who is doing the best they can with something they never expected to be carrying. But I'm still here. And I'm still walking. Was I the asshole for keeping the messages? Reddit said no. I think they're right. Drop your verdict in the comments. Would you have done what Rachel did? Stayed and worked on it? Or left that Tuesday night? 10 or 8. New story tomorrow. I post every single day. Subscribe so you don't miss it. See you then.